up, ladies and gentlemen? It is Kevin Jackowitz with the Caged Review, and today is the first post in a new section for art and art tutorials. And some people may ask, Kevin, why the fuck are you giving art tutorials if you never had a formal art class? Well, I've never had a formal art class, but I have been drawing most of my life. I'm just a big fan of anything artistic, whether it's actual painting, drawing, music, acting. It really doesn't matter. I just love being creative. And me being creative, I have found ways of teaching myself how to do virtually everything. I taught myself how to play guitar, how to play piano, how to draw. So my style may be a little bit different from other people because I've never had any formal training. I think I had like one art class in high school and that was it. So my style may definitely be different, and I'm certainly by no means the best artist. There are artists that make me look terrible. But I think that I'm good enough to where I can give people, especially people just starting out, some good helpful tips. Now I wanted to show you guys just a few pictures real quick from my old artwork, and I'll show you a few more from what I've been doing, let's say in the last 5-10 years. And it'll give you an idea at least what I can do and whether you think I'm good enough to be giving anybody tutorials. Because some people will have more knowledge than I do, some people won't. And maybe it's just a nice back and forth of trading ideas, things that maybe you can give me that I've never thought of before, or I can give you that you've never thought of before. But to start out, here are a few of my much older pieces, things that I was just kind of toying around with when I just started drawing. I didn't really have any education, as I said, and I was kind of just playing around with things, you know, and seeing how they went. So the first one I have here, I remember having a mechanical drafting class because I took welding and metal shop and things like that, and they teach you how to, you know, form diagrams with grids. And with this grid paper, I was like, you know what? I bet I could probably draw a face if I drew the grid small enough and kind of laid out the layer of the face. And that's how I actually got my start. And so what I did was I made a little grid that I drew over a face, and then I drew a much bigger grid on a piece of paper and tried to match the lines as best I could, and just using the picture as reference to actually draw the face. So it wasn't exactly freehand, but not exactly copying either. It was a very middle ground there. So that's what I did. My first faces were, I did Mariah Carey, which was just a terrible picture, and I had to translate a lot of things. So the picture came out okay, but as far as like showing what I can do, I didn't want to use that one. Brad Pitt was one of the first ones that, you know, was a pretty good picture and I could actually use it. So here's Brad Pitt, and it's good. I used just enough of the outline to get the impression. As far as the shading, I tried not to go too deep with it, and that way it just kind of left more of the impression than, you know, a really deep look. I've since worked on that and gotten better at the shading and figuring out how to make these a little bit more 3D, pop a little bit more. So, but this is Brad Pitt. Another one that I did around this same time was, I love animals. I love all kinds of animals, and I think kangaroos are pretty cool. And I saw this picture, I think it was in a National Geographic, of a picture of a kangaroo eating on a piece of bamboo. And I thought, you know, that would just be a really cool picture. So this one, I believe I did this one all freehand. And my problem was, with a kangaroo, I have layers of fur, and I hadn't really known how to draw hair yet. So I layered and layered and layered and layered, probably more than I should have. But I do like the way it came out. I really like the depth on it too. So I was pretty happy with that for somebody just starting out, you know. Not a bad piece. And then I have a real quick picture of Da Vinci. Did a lot of sketching, and one of the sketches he did was a horse. So I tried to copy this horse. And it was a pretty basic outline type sketch, and just trying to get the features right. And I think I nailed it there. This was definitely freehand, and it was a little bit weird for me because, you know, I was at a point where I didn't know my proportioning and I didn't know if I was drawing it right. I was pretty happy with the end product. Not too bad as far as I'm concerned. I mean, I'm sure there's better, but you know, like I said, for a guy starting out with no training, it was very cool. And one of the things that I learned very quickly with horses is that circles are a big part of a horse. The jawline is a big circle, the bit is a big circle, the hindquarters, you know, the leg is a huge circle. And these are all things that I didn't know and learned through this drawing. And, you know, just a matter of paying attention and, you know, seeing what the shapes are. You know, it takes a little bit of getting used to, and especially if you're not used to it and you don't have an eye for things, it can be a little bit harder. So this next piece, I think I saw this as like a tattoo on somebody's body, and I just thought the idea was pretty funny. So I literally just draw a cartoonish head with the arms coming out from underneath his head. I don't know where the idea came from, but it just seemed kind of comical and fun to me. I really like drawing weird little things, and I do have some more abstract stuff that I do. That is something I'll get into later. Today I really wanted to focus and just show you guys the faces, because they're really easy to see. Okay, yeah, I know what this person looks like. That looks like the person. So obviously there's some talent there. The next piece is a very early comic book Spider-Man. I honestly didn't draw too much cartoon type drawings. I tried to get as real as I could with things. I really wanted to show off my ability in copying faces. I think that was my first love when it came to art. But it seems that every time I go to a cartoon or a comic style character, I still do really well with it. I just naturally came to knowing how to proportion bodies, and I really can't explain that. So I guess I was just blessed with the gift of, you know, observation, and that's really what 90% of art is, in my opinion. So, yeah. So that's kind of the end of what I wanted to show you for the old stuff. I really wanted to move into the new stuff and show you what my abilities really are. Now, at the very beginning of what I would call the new artwork, as Jessica Alba, it was one of the first portraits I did, and it was torn out picture from a magazine, and part of this whole section of her jawline was just ripped off the page. So what I had to do was draw the face that I could see and then kind of guess at the face that I couldn't see, and I had nothing to go by. So it was really nice that it came out really good for what it was. You can tell where kind of part of the jawline goes up a little bit too high in the back of the jaw, and you know, that just comes from not having another picture there. And like I said, all of this whole section of her face was torn out of the picture. So yeah, I mean, I'm literally drawing half a picture and trying to make it a full picture. But I really liked it. I really liked the depth in the eyes. The lips were pretty good, in my opinion. Just a really nice piece for somebody who, you know, was at a point where he was just starting to get serious about drawing people and, you know, trying to get measurements right in the face and things like that, and trying to take it a little bit more seriously. So moving on, Sarah Palin. My biggest problem with this picture specifically is I struggle with hair, because I've never been trained and I have never been shown how to draw hair. I really struggle with it sometimes, and the front hair that falls down over her face I was not happy with. It's just one of those things that, you know, you get everything right, the glasses look good, and then you're contending with, you know, something as simple for most artists as hair, because from what I understand, most artists find hair to be probably the easiest thing to draw. And in my case, it's actually the thing I struggle with the most, because the shading and the light reflection off of it. And as time has gone by, I've figured out certain things that I have techniques for the light shading down the hair and, you know, highlighting and things like that. So it is getting easier for me, and I am learning. But that is one place that I would be like, you know, if you have any suggestions, I'm self-taught. I'm always open to suggestions. Hopefully there's things I can share with you guys that you haven't thought of before. So, you know, I'm always open for a give and take. The next picture, this picture of Viggo Mortensen was actually pretty small. I think it was like maybe 3 inches, 3 by 3, or maybe 4 by 4. So not a very big picture to go by, and the drawing itself was a regular piece of, say, typing paper, you know, something like that, maybe 7.5 by 11 or whatever. And so blowing it up, I was really concerned that it wasn't going to look right, because I wasn't sure that I was going to get all the detail that I needed from the picture that I was using. I was very happy with the outcome though, and it was one of those situations where I learned that you don't always have to have the most detail in a picture, you just have to have the right shading. And that's an important thing that I learned, because, you know, there are times when you want to get a lot of detail and you want to see all the wrinkles in your picture, and, you know, if you're going for detail like that, then you need a bigger picture first of all. But it's not always a requirement. Sometimes you can live off just, you know, what you have to work with, which is the solid lines and the shading, and that can create everything that you need. So moving on, this is Barack Obama, and P.S. you saw that I did Sarah Palin earlier, and Barack Obama I drew everybody in that election just because it was a big election. I don't go either way with it, so don't even start a fucking political debate. But since Barack Obama did win and became president, I thought this was a very good picture to use, and I decided to do it in ink pen. Yes, this is ink pen, which gives zero room for mistake, and thankfully it came out very well, as you can see. I was very happy with this. But, you know, before you try ink pen, refine your craft, because you have to be very light with your touch with an ink pen, and I mean extremely light with your touch. Once that ink is on the paper, you're not getting it off. So that is food for thought, people. But I was very happy with it, and, you know, I've since done a couple other ink pen drawings, and one of them was Pulp Fiction. Pulp Fiction is just a fun movie for me. It's a great time, and this is one of the most iconic scenes from that movie. And so I actually started this in pencil, and I decided after the Barack Obama that, you know what, I really want to try to see how this looks in pen. And I think it came out very good. So, and I love the little details in this, especially the curtain rod. Up top, you have the multicolored couch blanket, things like that, and it just adds a nice little, you know, full scope of the image. And I love attention to detail like that. I love it from any artist, myself or anybody that I'm looking at. I want them to, you know, not just draw the face. I want them to pay attention to the clothes, the background, whatever it is, and create a full scene. And to me, that's very important because it's not a complete product without it. So, moving on, I have drawn a couple of wrestlers. I'm a big fan of WWE, and I drew a lot of female faces to start. Hey, I'm a guy. What can you say? But I wanted to start throwing in more male faces. You know, I had female bodies, so I wanted to throw, you know, the structure of male bodies into to, you know, to show that I can actually do it. And so I started with Triple H, or Paul Levesque, for people who actually know his name. And I did one of Jeff Hardy, and the thing I really liked about Jeff Hardy was the angle. The angle was a lot different than anything I'd done yet with a face. And so it really kind of gave me a new concept of what drawing a face is, because, you know, the different angles, it's a completely different type of drawing. And I hadn't really branched out from, you know, pretty much straight on faces or maybe turned slightly. And this one really showed me that I can do just about anything when it comes to faces. And I don't make them look the best yet. You know, I'm certainly, I'm no Da Vinci. You know, I don't know if anybody knows who Igor Kazarin is. He's a Russian portrait artist, but that man is amazing. I can't touch his work, but I can make it look good, and I can make it, you know, look like the person I'm trying to draw. And that, honestly, to me, was more than I ever expected to be able to do. So I'm going to move on to Kate Winslet. And this drawing I picked just because of the hair. As I said earlier, I have a problem with hair. So this was me trying to learn how to get over that, and how to draw hair and make it look natural and real. And I really liked how this hair came out. It was very cool for me. You can see the layers, you can see the strands, you know, it took some time for me. Like, it took, you know, because I started shading really lightly when I started the hair, and I kind of tried to darken just where it needed to be darkened, and, you know, really finesse it. Which is hard for me, again, you know. But I was very, very pleasantly surprised with the way this came out. The next piece on my list that I wanted to show you guys was, this was actually 2 sheets of, I had regular, like, you know, same size as typing paper again. But I decided to draw one really big portrait on 2 sheets. And it was unfortunate that I did it like that. I should have had just a bigger canvas to work with, because I hate that line in the middle. But that's how I drew it. But the Britney Spears I really liked, going back to detail and paying attention. The purse, to me, was one of the best parts of this. The frill being exact, especially since this purse overlaps both sheets. I had to line it up and get some of those strands to, you know, match up perfectly. And somehow I pulled it off. And, you know, the detail in the shoes, these like wood canvas heel shoes, the detail in those, I was very happy with the structure, the musculature in the arms and in the legs. I was very happy with the shading there. Really made the, you know, image of the muscles pop. And so I was really, really happy with this picture. One of my favorites. And more recently, I've actually had, I have a friend who works in the movie industry, and she's worked on some pretty big movies. And one of the things she was working on is I'll just say something with Justin Long, where she wanted me to draw a couple of pictures of Justin Long to, you know, be put up behind him. And so I actually did these 2 of Justin, and I'm very, very happy with these. I was excited. So this is the introduction to my art. As you can see, you can do anything if you put your mind to it. You don't have to have a formal education, you just have a deep desire to do it. And you know, you never sell yourself short, because you don't know what you do until you tried. and that's an important thing. But from here on out, like, I'll probably be doing little sessions where I'm actually drawing portraits or whatever I'm drawing at the time and showing you guys how I do it, and, you know, showing you the outcome. And that way, you know, we can kind of establish a little back and forth. And I've always believed that, you know, if you have something, pay it forward. I do it. I always look to other people to do it because we all help each other out in that way, you know. And especially with the artistic community, I think that, you know, people just bouncing ideas off each other is a beautiful thing. So that is my introduction to art and the tutorials that are going to come. My name is Kevin Jackwitz. This is the Cage Review. Cage Nation, out.